Sophie Cunningham was targeted, y'all. I'm telling you right now, Sophie Cunningham was targeted by Bria Hartley, and it just is what it is. It is what it is. I don't want to sit here and play games and act like, you know, she wasn't. She was targeted by Bria Hartley, and that's just the fact of the matter. And people can act like it's not all they want. I told you guys this girl was a dirty player, and that's all she did today was show how dirty she is.
Sophie Cunningham said it herself. She was targeted. And now her season is over. A torn MCL, the kind of injury that doesn't just sideline a player, it rips the heart out of a team already stretched to its breaking point. But what made this moment explode wasn't only the injury, it was what came next.
Hits just keep coming for the Indiana Fever. Not unexpected that Sophie Cunningham ruled out for the season, but devastating nonetheless as the injuries just continue to pile up. Of course, Sydney Colson already out for the season, Ari McDonald out for the season, and now Sophie Cunningham out for the season. That's with Caitlin Clark still out and having been out for much of the season.
Because as Sophie was on the ground, clutching her knee in agony, the cameras caught Bria Hartley smiling. That single frame, a grin as Sophie writhed in pain, lit the internet on fire. Was it shock? Was it satisfaction? To fans, it looked like Hartley wasn't just unbothered.
Today's law is once again in full effect for the Indiana Fever as Sophie Cunningham is ruled out for the rest of the season. So, what does this mean? They signed a new guard. Is Caitlin Clark ever coming?
She was pleased. And that's what turned this from a devastating play into a full-blown scandal. The hits keep coming for the Indiana Fever. Cindy Coulson? Out for the season. Ari McDonald? Out for the season. Caitlin Clark? Still sidelined. And now Sophie Cunningham, one of the team's toughest players, one of the few who had stepped up when Clark went down, done for the year. Fans saw it as the final straw. Not unexpected, maybe, given the way injuries have piled up.
With the Indiana Fever today, unfortunately, we have the horrific, terrible news that Sophie Cunningham is officially out for the rest of the season with a torn MCL.
But devastating nonetheless. And what turned devastation into outrage was the lack of accountability. No review, no flagrant foul, no league statement. The referees let the game roll on like nothing happened, while Sophie lay on the court watching her season disappear. For many fans, this wasn't just another injury. This was a targeted hit. In their eyes, Bria Hartley launched herself into Sophie's knee. And then that grin, frozen in a screenshot that spread across social media like wildfire. Outrage poured in. Fans asked how any player could smile in that moment. Theories swirled. Was it nerves, disbelief, or was it satisfaction? To Sophie's supporters, it didn't matter. It looked dirty, it felt dirty, and it fit into a larger pattern of Hartley's reputation as a reckless player. And the reactions didn't stop there. Some of the ugliest corners of the WNBA fandom, the ones who constantly clash online about Paige Buchers, Angel Reese, Aja Wilson, they surfaced to celebrate. Yes, celebrate. People actually cheered Sophie's injury, revealing just how toxic some rivalries had become. Fans called it despicable, unforgivable. The image of Hartley's grin became the face of that toxicity, a symbol of everything wrong with how this league sometimes polices its own. But the injury itself was only half the story. Sophie Cunningham has been the heartbeat of this team with Caitlin Clark out, the one diving for loose balls, knocking down threes, rallying teammates, even standing up publicly for Clark when she was targeted earlier in the year. She wasn't just another body in the rotation, she was toughness personified. And now she's gone. Her season, done. When Sophie confirmed it was an MCL tear and not the dreaded ACL, some called it a silver lining. At least it wasn't a year-long injury. But in the short term, the damage was the same. She was out, the Fever were gutted, and the hole in the lineup was massive. Her sister Lindsay wasted no time blasting the league, calling the officiating pathetic and accusing the WNBA of punishing players for speaking out while doing nothing to actually protect them on the floor. Fans rallied behind her. They were tired of dangerous plays being brushed aside, tired of athletes paying the price for officials letting them play, tired of seeing seasons destroyed with nothing more than a whistle and a shrug. And Sophie, herself, she didn't shrink. She turned the outrage into defiance. When critics piled on, she shot back with the line that became an instant rallying cry. F around and find out. Simple, sharp, unapologetic. It wasn't just a comeback to trolls, and it was a message to the entire league. Sophie wasn't backing down, and if the WNBA wasn't going to protect its players, then she'd call them out directly. The truth is, this wasn't an isolated incident. Fans have watched all season as hard hits, cheap shots, and reckless plays slipped through without consequence. Over and over again, officials swallowed whistles, and players got hurt. Sophie's injury was the tipping point, the moment that exposed how fragile the league's promise of player safety really was. And for the Fever, it was more than symbolic. This was the player who had carried their fight through the darkest weeks of Caitlin Clark's absence. Losing her wasn't just losing a shooter or a defender, it was losing the spark. But even as Sophie lay on the ground, even as social media turned the grin into a scandal, the Fever still found ways to fight. Against the Connecticut Sun, they pulled off one of the greatest comebacks in franchise history. Stephanie White, their head coach, praised their toughness and grit, saying this was how they lived, how they fought, how they refused to quit. But everyone knew the truth. Those comebacks were miracles, not sustainable strategies. Without Sophie, without Caitlin, the Fever were fighting uphill with no lifeline, and yet Sophie's voice, her defiance, her refusal to stay quiet turned her into more than just a player sidelined by injury. She became the mirror reflecting all of the league's failures, its blind spots, its leniency, its silence when safety should come first. Fans weren't just outraged for her. They were outraged because she represented every player left vulnerable by inconsistency. Every time a dangerous play slid without punishment, this was the cost. So here's the reality. Sophie Cunningham's season is over. The Fever have lost one of their fiercest competitors. But what lingers isn't just the pain of her injury. It's the picture. Bria Hartley smiling as Sophie went down. It's the league's silence. It's the referee's inaction. And it's Sophie herself, standing up, saying loud enough for everyone to hear, "I was targeted," and that statement has become more than personal. It's become the spark for a bigger fight. A fight for accountability, for safety, and for respect in a league where players deserve far better than what Sophie got. Because this wasn't just about Sophie Cunningham going down. It was about whether the WNBA is willing to stand up,